Over the past 50 years, 3,000 ships and 100 planes have gone missing in a mysterious stretch of water in the Atlantic Ocean.
Ships have gone missing, planes have gone missing.
The recent appearance of a huge wave that left behind a black hole close to the shores of South Africa has left experts baffled. Nobody knows what could have caused this anomaly, but it is clear that this is something that needs to be investigated urgently, as it has riled up the public. What could have caused this extraordinary phenomenon? Is there a looming danger along the coastal line of South Africa? Join us as we delve deep into the gigantic abnormal waves that shook the whole Atlantic Ocean. The Anomaly Giant Cluster Wave in Atlantic Ocean. There was a strange event this week. Satellites just captured pictures of a big wave anomaly that has caused worries around the world. The waves were taller than 80 feet and covered 2,000 miles, about as big as Texas. They suddenly appeared off Africa on April 10th. This weird thing lasted about 24 hours before going away. People wondered what caused it. Some thought it could be from aliens, and some internet users said the huge waves must be from something moving under the ocean. They called it an unidentified submersible object, like UFOs seen in the sky. Others thought it was a massive sea monster like Cthulhu. But trustworthy sources later found the supposed anomaly was just a technical glitch. It happened because of an error in the weather model system used by Ventusky, the weather app made by the Czech company Inmeteo, which spotted the weird wave pattern. Ventusky gathers real-time weather details from respected global sources like NOAA, a prominent U.S. agency. Users can examine factors like wind motion and wave activity. Even though the episode briefly aroused curiosity and caught many people's attention, the fact that it was ultimately attributed to a computational error emphasizes how important it is to exercise caution when distinguishing real phenomena from false data artifacts. But assuming this phenomenon is indeed real, it will not be the only time we have seen waves that are as large as this. The colossal wave that shook the Kalila II ship. Back in 2010, a cruise ship known as the Kalila II would be sailing from the Antarctic Peninsula to Argentina. The ship, which weighed well over 2,400 tons, had been moving through the Drake Passage, one of the most dangerous waterway routes in the world. And despite how big the ship was, it was met with a significance-based resistance that almost knocked it off its balance. However, the captain of the ship, who had about 160 sea trips under his belt at the time, believed that they could continue moving. However, things got significantly worse when the ship got hit by a 30-foot wave that rocked the deck and spilled water. All over the vessel, footage of the ship struggling amidst the waves was taken by the National Geographic Explorer, another nearby ship that had picked up the distress signal from the Kalila II. According to reports, the wave knocked the ship's power and communication systems out, rendering them offline. Fortunately, the other ship was able to rig a satellite phone over, and the Kalila II eventually reached its destination on reduced power, without anyone getting hurt, but the next scene is capable of destroying cities. The Wahoo radioactive waves. Although the possibility of nuclear Armageddon, which would turn the entire globe into a freezing ball of ash, is constantly present, nuclear weapons are still somewhat terrifying, and many nations are still working to improve their arsenals in case someone steps out of line. Following the disaster that was World War II, the U.S. military made the decision to maximize its capabilities by expanding its nuclear arsenal. This occurred during the height of the Cold War. Therefore, in 1958, after conducting multiple tests in the Marshall Islands, the government was essentially trying to make sure it was ready for any new threats. They made the decision to try it again. The purpose of this test, codenamed Wahoo, was to determine the Mark 7 nuclear gravity bomb's capabilities. 9 kilotons, or roughly 2/3 of the bomb detonated on Hiroshima, were reported to be the explosive yield of Mark 7. When the bomb finally exploded, 500 feet below the surface, the effects were astounding. The video showed the bomb's immense power before bursting. Towering 840 feet high, Mark 7 created a spray dome. At 22 seconds, the dome's diameter stretched 3,800 feet, revealing the bomb's catastrophic destructive force. This wave might not have caused any damage to residents, but the next wave causes unforeseen destruction that people are still recovering from. Japanese tsunami of horror. Records show that the largest and most destructive earthquake to ever strike the tiny nation of Japan occurred in March 2011. The submerged earthquake, which was one of the 5 biggest ever recorded globally, seemed to have started in the Pacific Ocean around 72 kilometers east of the Oshika Peninsula in the Tohoku area of the nation. According to the U.S. Geological Service, the earthquake had a Richter scale value of 9 to 9.1, and because it had lasted for about 10 minutes, a tsunami with a maximum height of 10 meters was automatically generated. It was a really bizarre scene. It was stated that boats, fences, and even a few houses were washed away by the ensuing tsunami. In Kamaishi City, the footage displays water surging over an 18-foot seawall. From above, it might not appear to be as destructive, but the tsunami's wave was very strong. An estimated 23,000 people are thought to have died as a result of the earthquake, which also caused damage totaling between $200 and $300 billion. Indeed, nature can sometimes be so unpredictable that we never know what might be heading our way. Red alert in Cape Town. Back in 2019, the South African government sent out an official warning to residents of several cities, alerting them to inclement weather that could bring massive winds and rises in sea levels. The cold front was especially expected to hit the Western Cape, and while people had been prepared beforehand, nobody was ready for the massive waves that resulted from this. A police dash cam would manage to capture some of the footage, and it was scary for sure. The rains and waves lasted for several days, pummeling residents of the city and leaving many people unable to even get out of their homes. Local officials blame the rise in wave occurrences on climate change. Not all waves are dangerous, though. In fact, in some parts of the world, thrill seekers look for these huge waves. Portugal's record-breaking waves. Nazar, Portugal is famous for its record-breaking waves, particularly in the big wave surfing community. The waves at Nazar are some of the biggest and most powerful in the world, attracting surfers from all over to tackle these massive swells. The largest wave ever surfed was at Nazar in 2011, a staggering 78 feet high by Garrett McNamara, who then went ahead and broke his own record in 2013 in Nazar by surfing a 100-foot wave. The underwater canyon near Nazar has a big impact. It makes the ocean swell bigger. This results in huge, powerful waves. This special canyon attracts surfers and viewers. The massive waves break close to the shore. It's an exciting sight to see. Many surfers and tourists now visit Nazar. This used to be a quiet fishing village, but it has become a popular place for big wave surfing fans. The visitors have helped the local economy. Nazar attracts extreme sports lovers and nature fans. For people looking to witness the incredible waves of Nazar, the best viewing spots include the North Beach Viewpoint and the Lighthouse, both of which offer breathtaking points to watch the surfers take on the colossal waves. Nazar's combination of record-breaking waves and stunning natural beauty makes it a must-visit destination for all who are fascinated by the power of the ocean, just like the next location. The giant wave of Donegal Bay. Waves at Mullaghmore Head in Donegal Bay can rise over 50 feet. It's a famous spot for skilled surfers seeking the Atlantic's winter storms that produce enormous waves. This surf break is renowned for its massive size and powerful energy. But surfing there requires facing intense conditions and risks. Huge swells hit Mullaghmore Head when winter storms strike from the North Atlantic. These storms generate monstrous waves, perfect for big wave surfing. However, the waves' immense power combined with the rocky shoreline creates an extremely dangerous environment. Conquering the towering, ferocious waves presents significant hazards and challenges for even the most experienced surfers. Big waves form at Mullaghmore Head because of the deep trench and underwater landscape. These conditions produce rare, massive waves. This attracts surfers worldwide, but timing and the right conditions matter. Surfers need caution and skill to ride these waves safely. At Mullaghmore Head, big wave surfing thrills, but also risks for brave surfers. The cause of these waves can be explained, but then there are some extraordinary phenomena of the ocean that scientists have been trying hard to understand for thousands of years. The 1,000-years-old Bermuda Triangle Mystery. The Bermuda Triangle is a section of the North Atlantic Ocean off North America in which more than 50 ships and 20 airplanes are said to have mysteriously disappeared. The area, whose boundaries are not universally agreed upon, has a triangular shape that reaches approximately from the Atlantic coast of Florida to Bermuda to the islands known as the Greater Antilles. Reports of unexplained occurrences in the region date to the mid-19th century. Some ships were discovered completely abandoned for no apparent reason. Others transmitted no distress signals and were never seen or heard from again. Aircraft have been reported and then vanished, and rescue missions are said to have vanished when flying in the area. However, wreckage has not been found, and some of the theories advanced to explain the repeated mysteries have been fanciful. Although theories of supernatural causes for these disappearances abound, geophysical and environmental factors are most likely responsible. One hypothesis is that pilots failed to account for the agonic line, the place at which there is no need to compensate for magnetic compass variation, as they approach the Bermuda Triangle, resulting in significant navigational error and catastrophe. Another popular theory is that the missing vessels were felled by so-called rogue waves, which are massive waves that can reach heights of up to 100 feet and would theoretically be powerful enough to destroy all evidence of a ship or an airplane. The Bermuda Triangle is located in an area of the Atlantic Ocean where storms from multiple directions can converge, making rogue waves more likely to occur. According to the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, there is no evidence that mysterious disappearances occur with any greater frequency in the Bermuda Triangle than in any other large, well-traveled area of the ocean, and boaters and flyers continue to venture through the triangle without incident. Despite decades of research and investigation, the Bermuda Triangle continues to captivate the public imagination as one of the most enduring unsolved mysteries in modern science. Despite all the efforts of historians to understand this manuscript's text, it has never been decoded, leaving its purpose and meaning a mystery. Voynich's Manuscript of Wonders. Voynich manuscript, illustrated manuscript written in an unknown language and thought to have been created in the 15th or 16th century. It is named after antiquarian bookseller Wilfred Voynich, who purchased it in 1912. Scholars and scientists have sought to decipher the text since the manuscript was first discovered. Since 1969, it has been housed in the Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University. The Voynich Codex measures 22.5 by 16 centimeters and contains 102 heavily illustrated parchment folios of about 234 pages. The manuscript is divided into 6 sections based on the illustrations: botany, astronomy and astrology, biology, cosmology, pharmaceuticals, and a section of continuous text with decoration marking the beginning of short entries thought to be recipes. The illustrations in the botanical section, the largest section of the manuscript, consist of 113 large, detailed, colorful drawings of plants and herbs, with text carefully written around the imagery. The next section is 12 pages of astronomy and astrology drawings and arrangements of stars, the sun, and the moon, with some pages featuring zodiac symbols. The third section contains drawings of nude women intertwined with and connected by tubes and what appear to be flowing fluids. The fourth section, Cosmology, is composed of drawings of 9 medallions filled with stars and other shapes. The pharmaceutical section returns again to plants and herbs and depicts what are thought to be medicinal plants. This section differs from the botany section in that many pages include drawings of elaborate jars or bottles, and in some cases, many types of herbs appear on a single page. Though the images are more or less decipherable, much time and effort has been spent by scholars and scientists determining the types of herbs and other plants. The text has proved otherwise. Numerous scholars, linguists, cryptologists, and other intrigued parties have attempted to decode the unknown script with little to no success. The book came into Voynich's hands in 1912, when he procured it from a Jesuit college near Rome. The bookseller coordinated a number of exhibitions of the manuscript, including one at the Art Institute of Chicago in 1915. He put forth great effort to have the text deciphered, recruiting University of Pennsylvania philosophy professor William Newbold. In 1921, both Voynich and Newbold delivered lectures on the manuscript, calling it the Roger Bacon cipher manuscript, and saying it was discovered in a castle in southern Europe. The manuscript was purchased from Voynich's estate in 1961 by a New York bookseller, Hans P. Krauss, who donated it to the Beinecke Library in 1969. Among the many people who tried to decipher the text were renowned World War II cryptologists William and Elizabeth Friedman, art historian Erwin Panofsky, intelligence specialists and scholars of chemistry, law, mathematics, medieval philosophy, and other fields. Several books and dissertations have been published about the mysterious volume. Some critics consider the book to be a hoax perpetrated by Voynich, but the radiocarbon-dated parchment, as well as focused linguistic studies like that of Marcello Montemurro, which brought to light distinct linguistic patterns, seem to suggest otherwise. Well into the 21st century, Voynich's script has continued to be examined for clues to its meaning and origin. The Voynich manuscript remains one of the most enigmatic and intriguing puzzles in the history of cryptography. Although many theories have been proposed to explain this strange event, no agreement has been reached among scientists. The strange ball of lightning. Ball lightning is a rare and unexplained phenomenon described as luminescent, spherical objects that vary from pea-sized to several meters in diameter. Though usually associated with thunderstorms, the observed phenomenon is reported to last considerably longer than the split-second flash of a lightning bolt and is a phenomenon distinct from St. Elmo's fire. Some 19th century reports describe balls that eventually explode and leave behind an odor of sulfur. Descriptions of ball lightning appear in a variety of accounts over the centuries and have received attention from scientists. An optical spectrum of what appears to have been a ball lightning event was published in January 2014 and included a video at high frame rate. Laboratory experiments have produced effects that are visually similar to reports of ball lightning, but how these relate to the supposed phenomenon remains unclear. Scientists have proposed a number of hypotheses to explain reports of ball lightning over the centuries, but scientific data on ball lightning remains scarce. The presumption of its existence has depended on reported public sightings, which have produced inconsistent findings. Owing to the lack of reproducible data, the existence of ball lightning as a distinct physical phenomenon remains unproven. This next video has gotten modern scientists wondering how an unknown hums is being heard in a particular region, creepy sounds in Mexico. The town of Taos in north-central New Mexico has been home to many famous residents, including Julia Roberts, Dennis Hopper, D.H. Lawrence, Aldous Huxley, and Donald Rumsfeld. It's a small, laid-back, artsy community that is also home to an unusual mystery, a resident hum of unknown origin, the so-called Taos hum. A variety of theories have been offered as explanations, ranging from the mundane to the fantastic, the psychological to the paranormal. Stoned hippies, secret government mine bases, control experiments, underground UFO bases, and everything in between have been blamed. The hum seems to have first been reported in the early 1990s. Joe Mullins, a professor emeritus of engineering at the University of New Mexico, conducted research into the Taos hum. Based on a survey of residents, about 2% of the general population was believed to be hearers, those who claimed to detect the hum. Sensitive equipment was set up in the homes of several of the hearers, measuring sounds and vibrations, but after extensive testing, nothing unusual was detected. The research revealed, however, that there was not a single identifiable Taos hum, but instead several different ones that people reported. Some describe it as whir, hum, or buzz. The fact that not everyone heard the same thing was puzzling and suggests that they may have been reporting subjective experiences instead of objective sounds. The true origin of the Taos hum remains a mystery that continues to baffle scientists and residents alike. This mystery has been heard as folklore for years. Could it be real? Let's find out. The length of the Bigfoot. Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, is a legendary creature that is said to inhabit the wilderness areas of North America, particularly the Pacific Northwest region. Descriptions of the creature vary, but most accounts describe it as a large, hairy, bipedal primate-like creature, standing between 6 and 10 feet tall and weighing anywhere from 400 to 1,000 pounds. Witnesses claim to have seen the creature walking upright, and some have even reported being chased by it. Despite numerous reported sightings and alleged evidence, the existence of Bigfoot remains unproven. A Sasquatch is a large, hairy, human-like creature believed by some people to exist in the northwestern United States and western Canada. It seems to represent the North American counterpart of the Himalayan region's mythical monster, the abominable snowman or Yeti. Belief in Bigfoot has been around for centuries, but it was not until the mid-20th century that the creature gained mainstream attention. In 1958, Tracks were discovered near Bluff Creek, California, that were claimed to belong to Bigfoot. The British explorer David Thompson is sometimes credited with the first discovery of a set of Sasquatch footprints, and hundreds of alleged prints have been adduced since then. Visual sightings and even alleged photographs and filmings have also contributed to the legend, though none of the purported evidence has been verified. A Soviet scientist, Boris Porshnev, suggested that Sasquatch and his Siberian counterpart, the Almas, could be remnants of Neanderthals, but most scientists do not recognize the creature's existence. However, until it is explained, Bigfoot remains a mystery. This abandoned vessel has raised eyebrows for centuries and still does even today. The ghost ship of the Mary Celeste. In 1872, the discovery of the Mary Celeste, a British-American ship abandoned and floating in the Atlantic Ocean, became one of the biggest maritime mysteries in history. The ship was found with fully intact cargo, in perfectly seaworthy condition, but with no sign of the captain, Benjamin Briggs, his family, or the 7 crew members. A lifeboat appeared to have been boarded in an orderly fashion, but the reason for their departure remains a mystery. The Mary Celeste set sail from New York for Genoa, Italy, in November 1872. It had a 6-month supply of provisions, along with luxurious items such as a sewing machine and an upright piano. Some have suggested that it would be unusual to abandon such a valuable ship and its contents without extraordinary circumstances. Yet the ship's daily log and the interior of the vessel appeared to be in order. A more likely scenario is that Captain Briggs erroneously believed his ship was taking on too much water and was about to sink. This theory was supported by the fact that the sounding rod used to determine the amount of water in the hold was discovered on deck, suggesting that it had been used just before the ship was abandoned. In addition, one of the ship's pumps showed signs of trouble. It was disassembled. A faulty reading of the sounding rod and an ineffective pump could have led Captain Briggs to believe the ship was foundering and order it abandoned. A mishap may then have occurred in the longboat, causing all to perish. Conspiracy theories surrounding the ship's disappearance include mutiny, pirate attacks, and even sea monster encounters. However, to this day, the true cause behind this eerie and inexplicable incident remains unknown. Away from monsters and ghosts, the next anomaly is referred to as an extraterrestrial transmission. The origin of this signal has remained unsolved and continues to captivate the scientific community. Signals from space. In August 1977, an Ohio State University astronomer named Jerry Amon was reviewing data from a radio telescope when he noticed something peculiar. It was a burst of radio waves that lasted just 72 seconds, but was incredibly powerful, registering over 30 times the background noise. Amon was so struck by the signal that he circled it on the computer printout and wrote "wow" next to it, giving the signal its name, the WOW signal. Despite numerous attempts to detect the signal again, no repeat transmission has ever been detected. The WOW signal has captured the imagination of scientists and the public alike, with some speculating that it could be a message from an intelligent extraterrestrial civilization. However, skeptics argue that the signal could have been caused by a natural phenomenon or a man-made source. Decades later, the true origin of the WOW signal remains a mystery, but it continues to inspire the search for extraterrestrial life and the exploration of the cosmos. Deep in the heart of Peru, these abnormal markings have left most scientists in shock. Some believe it has connections to the extraterrestrial world, the weird Nazca lines. As a plane soars over the high desert of southern Peru, the dull, pale sameness of the rocks and sand organizes and change form. Distinct white lines gradually evolve from tan to rust red. Strips of white crisscross a desert so dry that it rains less than an inch every year. The landscape changes as lines take shape to form simple geometric designs: trapezoids, straight lines, rectangles, triangles, and swirls. Some of the swirls and zigzags start to form more distinct shapes: a hummingbird, a spider, a monkey. Peruvian archaeologist Toribio Mejia Chespe was the first to systematically study the lines in 1926. However, since the lines are virtually impossible to identify from ground level, they were only first brought to public awareness with the advent of flight by pilots flying commercial planes over Peru in the 1930s. American professor Paul Kosak investigated and found himself at the foot of a line on June 22, 1941, just one day after the winter solstice. At the end of a full day studying the lines, Kosak looked up from his work to catch the sunset in direct alignment with the line. Kosak called the 310 square mile stretch of high desert the largest astronomy book in the world years ago. People thought the Kosak-Reich ideas about the lines were true, but in the 1970s, researchers from America came to Peru to study the shapes. They found problems with the old astronomy view. Most lines did not aim at places on the horizon or in the sky. Instead, they probably led to spots for rituals about water and plant growth. Our universe holds numerous mysteries. Some are complex concepts we struggle to grasp, like the nature of consciousness. Other puzzles come from nature itself, such as the origins of life. Delving into the unknown sparks curiosity and innovation within us. It pushes us to learn more and uncover revelations. Though many perplexing questions remain, researchers work tirelessly. Breakthroughs will continue shedding light on mysteries of our era. With unwavering determination, scientists probe deeper into unsolved mysteries. Their findings promise future insights into phenomena we presently fail to comprehend fully. What revolutionary discoveries await? Only ongoing exploration will reveal tantalizing answers. We are surrounded by mysteries that amaze us. These puzzles invite us to explore and discover. Every new finding brings us closer to unlocking secrets. It deepens our grasp of existence. Thanks for watching. Comment to share what you think in the comment section below. Remember to like and subscribe to see more videos.